Welcome to another how-to video from bugspray.com. In this video, I'm going to go over the basic functions and installation of our Ground Stake Repeller. These are solar-powered units, meaning that the sun will recharge a battery that's located in the head unit. This battery is replaceable. You can access it by removing the screw and this panel. And these batteries should last at least 2 to 3 years. They're very inexpensive, and eventually you will have to replace them. But for the most part, they do their job really well. And they only require a few hours of sunlight every day to keep them powered up so that the unit can be active 24 hours a day. The unit will arrive in a box, and as you notice, there's 2 separate pieces. What you need to do when it first arrives is place this head unit in a window or out in the sunshine. Don't let it get rained on, but what we're trying to do is let the sun hit this panel for at least 3 or 4 hours a day, and if you can do that, let it charge for 3 days before installing the units in the yard. Once you've got the unit charged up, it's always suggested that you test it first before you do the installation. To test it, simply take the ground stake and remove the USB cord. This is permanently mounted inside there. It's connected down into the chamber where we have the rattle and the siren sound speaker. The end of the cord is a simple USB connector, and at the bottom of the head unit you'll see the receiver for that. So all you do is plug it in and then take your cord and kind of slide it back down into the ground stake and just push that head unit on there. It has little grooves so it kind of fits on there. The bottom of the unit features LED lights and a little on-off switch, this little button, and that's what we'll turn on to check the unit. To test it and make sure that you have a proper power supply, just hit the button once. And when you do, what you want to see here is this light. So you're seeing the lights going on, you're hearing the audible sound, and it already rattled. So it functioned through 4 parts of what it does. Basically the lights, the rattle, there is a vibration, and also an ultrasound that comes out. So there's 3 functional sounds, and of course the lights, which are above ground as well. At this point, you know the unit is turned on and you know that it's functioning, so you can go ahead and make your installation. For the point of understanding what this button does, I'm going to now show you that if you hit it a second time, you're going to hear what we call the alarm, and that alarm is telling you you're now in the alarm setting, which means that going forward, that's all the unit will do. So it will only set off that alarm, and if you require something or feel like that sound is what's deterring the animals that you're using this for, you can use it in that mode. If you hit the button a third time, you get the rattle, and what that means is that the unit will only rattle and not make the sound or the siren, and you won't see the lights. So that is something that you might feel is most important if you have ground-dwelling animals that are really deep, but from our experience, the best setting is always where you have the unit using everything it can do. So we want the lights being activated when it first gets dark, we want the siren going off during the day and night, and we want the vibration going off day and night. To get the units installed, you're going to need a hole, and making a hole that fits this stake is not as easy as it sounds. The stake is not particularly long. You only need to have from here to here in the ground, and that's not quite a foot, so about 10 or 11 inches is plenty deep. But it does need to be very much round so that this stake can slide right into it. Creating such a hole is easy if you use something like an earth auger. This particular one, you'll see links on our site on the product page here, will let you get this hooked up to a drill bit, say a cordless drill, and you can then power through the ground and make your hole so that you're ready to install this without fussing with it. You can't hammer this thing into the ground. You'll damage it. It's not designed for that. This is an aluminum body, and as such it's fairly thin, and if you're hammering it, you'll dent it up and you'll destroy it. So there's no hammering of this to install it. You have to have a hole that will receive it properly. So once you have your holes in the yard and you've positioned them around the property the way you feel you need to make the installation, you can then go outside and get these installed, preferably in the evening just before it gets dark and after you've charged up the head. A side note, remember that these units need to be placed no more than 50 feet apart for maintenance. In other words, if you're installing these without having any kind of a problem, you can space them out 50 feet. If you've got a problem, we recommend that you keep them 30 feet apart and that you start where you have the problem. In other words, install these directly over the tunnels after you've either eliminated the animal by trapping it or using some type of a poison bait, or maybe you've gassed it. We always recommend gassing tunnels. That's a very effective and quick method. And once you've gassed them, you can fill in the tunnels with dirt and then install these units. And if you let these units sit there for 2 weeks and see no new activity, you can then remove them from that location and push them further out in the yard, eventually getting to a perimeter barrier, so to speak, and having these units spaced out 30 feet, every 30 feet around the border of your property. You can keep invasive animals from coming into the yard. Remember, these units work on a wide range of animals. Everyone wants to use them for animals like moles or voles, but they work on shrews, ground squirrels, gophers, prairie dogs, gray squirrels even, and for snakes. They're very effective at keeping snakes from coming into the yard, and they can work on even something like an iguana or lizards that are laying out in the sun. Anything that's using a certain part of the yard and getting comfortable, you can place this out there. We've had people use these for birds, such as ducks and geese, just setting them out where these animals like to rest and make a mess. You can install some of these units, and the vibration and the sound is strong enough to keep them from coming around. So at this point, we have the holes made, and the unit is charged up, and you're ready to do your installation. Bring the unit back outside and take the stake and get it into the hole. As indicated, you need that hole to take about that much of the stake. Once it's down in the ground, just pull out your little USB cord and go ahead and plug her in, and then slide the unit's head over the ground stake so it's securely in place. Once you've got the unit securely in place, you can turn it on, and if you're doing this around dusk, you'll notice the lights going on, you'll hear the sound and the rattle, and you know that she's deployed. The one click when the lights go on is all you need to do, and that's it. If you have enough sun, the unit will be able to charge itself and keep itself running continuously. If you go into a time period where there's a lot of rain and you're not getting a lot of sun, you may need to take the unit off of the ground stake, bring it inside, and let it charge through the window again for a day or two. You can opt to get a charger. They sell these now for these batteries to where you can plug it into the wall and get them charged up in an hour or so, and that's sometimes suggested. The only maintenance that this will require is taking it out of the ground during the winter months so it's not buried in snow. That's very, very important. We don't want it getting frozen with water around the head and all. It is water resistant, but water can creep up through the bottom, and if the unit is being submerged in snow, it can lead to a faster degradation of it. So take it out of the ground if it's frozen by you, or if it freezes. Another thing to understand is that it is electrical, and it is sensitive to electrical charges. So if you have thunderstorms moving through the area, it can sense that and shut itself down. So it's not uncommon for this to stop working. A good idea to monitor these is to check them, not every night, but say once or twice a week. Peek out your window around dark and see if the lights are going on. Obviously, you can go out to the units during the day and just stand by them for a minute or two. You're generally going to hear that alarm or even sense the vibration within a minute of standing by them. And if you don't hear or feel anything for a couple of minutes, it means it needs to be reset, or that the batteries have broken down enough and need to be recharged. This is not uncommon. I personally am using these, and I find I have to reset them probably once every 2 or 3 months. Here in Georgia, we do get a lot of electrical storms, and they are sensitive to that. So to reset them, it's not just a matter of turning the unit off or on. What I have found is always best is to literally pull out that little USB connector, plug it back in, and start from square one. Doing that is like rebooting a cell phone or an iPad or a computer. It just lets the electronics start afresh, and then you're back in business again. And whenever you're needing to remove them from the ground, always disconnect the head first before you start yanking on the ground stake, so we don't damage the connectors or bend up this little tube, because it is sensitive to that. So thank you for watching this how-to video from bugspray.com.